I had a mentor again, Tom, when I was in my 20s, and he asked me, he said, what is your plan for growth? And I didn't have a plan for growth. I said, what do you mean plan for growth? He said, what are you intentionally doing to improve your life? And I had never thought about a plan for growth. And then he said something to me that was huge. He said, getting older is automatic. In other words, getting 79, that's automatic. Getting better is not automatic.
Hey, what's up, my friends? Tom Henderson from RESGEN here, and I want to welcome you to another, what I think is going to be a very special and different episode of the RESGEN Giving Life Podcast. I say it's both special and different because we are going to bring you a conversation that I had live at this year's RESGEN Men's Summit at the Denny Sanford Premier Center on February 21st. This conversation, it's a short one. But man, it is packed with great information and a powerful punch. So, who am I going to have you listen to today? Who am I going to bring to your ears or to your eyes today? None other than the GOAT, John Maxwell. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Tom, you just had John on just about 2-3 episodes ago. And I know, and that was a great conversation as well. And I wasn't necessarily planning on bringing this convo to you. But as I went back and listened to it again, as I've heard feedback from Men's Summit attendees, they said, man, the content in that short 15 to 17 minute conversation that you had with John was just so full of info that was really important for me to hear. I couldn't hold that for ourselves. I want to make sure that we get that to all of you as well. So this is a shorter episode, but don't mistake that for non-powerful, because this is that kind of an episode. So without further ado, I want to give you this short and great conversation with my friend, mentor, and the GOAT of leadership today, Mr. John C. Maxwell. So grateful, and just to be able to spend this time with you. Come on, you're in Sioux Falls in February. I love this. So John, I want to ask you a couple questions here. And being that you just mentioned, so you're 79 years old, 79 years young as of yesterday.
Yeah.
And what I love about, there's so much to love about how you live your life, but you are a lifelong learner.
Totally.
You never stop learning. And so I'm just interested in what is something that God is currently teaching you in this stage of your life?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I had a mentor again, Tom, when I was in my 20s, and he asked me, he said, what is your plan for growth? And I didn't have a plan for growth. I said, what do you mean plan for growth? He said, what are you intentionally doing to improve your life? And I had never thought about a plan for growth. And then he said something to me that was huge. He said, getting older is automatic. In other words, getting 79, that's automatic. Getting better is not automatic. You can get older without getting better. He said, I'm going to challenge you to get better. And if you're going to get better, you have to be intentional. That changed my life. And I began to intentionally invest in myself. And I talk about what I call the everyday essentials. Every day I read, every day I think, every day I file, every day I ask questions, and every day I write. Now, those are the 5 things that I do as a writer, as an author. I do them every day. I didn't say I do them all day. Remember, you just asked him to give them 1% today in your talk. I don't do it all day, but I want to tell you something. Consistency is more important than intensity.
Yeah.
And so I got into it in the 20s. I got into an intentional growth pattern. And so in this intentional growth pattern, what I'm doing is I'm always open to growing. And so what I'm working on, as 2026 turned, I give myself every year, I ask God to give me a word for the year, a prayer for the year, and then a project for the year. And the project for 2026, this is so over my head. And I get over my head like that, but it's okay. Everybody needs to get over their head. And let me just say this, and if you're over your head, it doesn't matter how deep the water is. So get over your head, you understand? Just get going. And so this one, I'm really over my head. But I have come to the conclusion that I would like to become the richest man in heaven. And I'm going to all year study the life of Jesus in the Bible, and I'm going to figure it out. What do I need to do and be to be the richest person in heaven? I don't have any desire to be the richest person on earth, but what does it mean to be the richest person? And so I'm learning right now. I'm doing daily study on biblically, what does it mean for me to get my riches in heaven? And by the way, that please understand, Jesus told us to do that. He said, let me explain something. Put your stuff up there, not here. So I'm saying, okay, what does that mean? How do I get all my stuff up there? Because, we don't take it with us. I mean, I was just in Egypt, the valley of the pyramids, and all the dead pharaohs have been dead for thousands of years. And they had in these pyramids, they have all the gold and all this stuff. They thought they could take, and then robbers broke in and took it. Well, that's what Jesus said would happen. So So when you ask me what I'm learning this year is how can I live a life that just gets everything that's important up there in heaven, so that it's not going to be taken away here anyway in earth. And so it means several things to me, and I'm writing my list down, and then I practice that list, and hopefully by the end of the year I'll be able to do a talk on how to become the richest person in heaven. So that's what I'm learning right now.
I love that. I love that. So another question. We at RESGEN, we talk a lot about our band of brothers.
Yes.
And how we need other men. We need people in our life that, and I like to call it real friends versus deal friends.
Yeah.
Deal friends is meant to come easy, but a lot of times it's transactional.
That's the deal.
Yeah. Real friends.
I'll do something for you, you do something
exactly.
for me.
Real friends, transformational.
That's right.
And so I'd love for you to speak to just the importance of the people you surround yourself with, and kind of challenge and pastor the men here for a minute, just on thinking deeply about just who they're surrounding themselves with and the influence that they have on their lives and that they can have on others.
Well, I really was fortunate. I had wonderful parents. And one of the things that, we were the home, really, Tom, where all the kids came. I mean, we had the pool table, we had the basketball court, we had the wiffle ball diamond out in the backyard, we had the chemistry set, we had the shuffleboard court. We weren't wealthy. My father was good with money, so he managed it well. So we were average, but maybe a little bit, but not much above average. But we had all the stuff. Mm-hmm. And later I found out in life we had all the stuff, so all the kids would come to our house. And my mother would always be there. My father had to travel quite a bit, but my mother would be there. And then we'd have 15, 20 kids at our house on the weekend. And we're out playing and having a great time. And she was watching. She was watching who my friends were. And we've had dozens of times when everybody would leave, and she'd ask me about a certain boy, and say, how do you know him, and who is he, and how long have you known him? And she was trying to help us to kind of sort out, because she understood that who our friends were at that age would determine a lot of how we think, and we know that to be very true. Now we see with social media, I mean, one of the reasons we do values training in public schools, and we're going up, we're doing that over to 1.5 million kids right now in public schools. In the classroom, we're getting our values training, is we know that if we could put values in them, here's what happens. If you have good values on the inside, you'll need less validation on the outside. Validation on the outside is all about, I don't know who I am. And so my parents understood that, and they understood that a lot of that is going to happen with the kids we associated with. And then as I grew up and I started my personal growth thing, I could still remember Charles Tremendous Jones said, in the next 5 years, you will become what you're reading and who your 5 closest friends are. So therefore, I think that choosing friends, the band of brothers things you said, what's the real friend versus the deal friend? I think that that's probably the most important decision outside of our faith decision that helps us, determines who we're going to become. And so I've got some wonderful people, wonderful friends. And I love to play golf, and every once in a while, maybe every 5 or 6 years, I'll have a friend of mine say, let's go to Scotland or Ireland, let's play golf for a few days. And my deal is, you pick the golf courses, and I'll pick the friends. Because I know what it's like to be around people that will stretch me and hold me accountable and love me unconditionally. And I'm very fortunate. Colin, who came up and brought the $100 to me earlier, I mean, he and I have been friends for 30 years now, and I've had a wonderful, wonderful relationship with him, and he's just one of those real friends. And every time I'm around him, I'm encouraged, I'm nourished. Here's what I know. When you're around the right people, you come away and you feel bigger. When you're around the wrong people, when you leave them, you feel smaller. And so it's everything. Your friends are so essential.
Yeah. So John, first of all, thank you for being a leader that's worth following. You've lived your life for 79 years maintaining character and integrity, pouring your life out for others. And I'm so grateful for that. And as I'm just thinking about you, and I think about just leadership, and I think about just the amount of leaders that we've seen fall, we've seen men who make poor decisions, be one step from stupid. I'm interested in just what's one compromise, and it's easy to make compromises in life, right?
Oh, sure.
So what's one compromise that you see leaders make over the years that slowly erodes their faith, their character and integrity?
Yeah.
So, because Scripture says we're supposed to be on our guard, and
well,
so
I think that the thing we all have to be careful of is to never think that we're not one step from stupid. I really mean, I think when people mess up, it's because they think they won't mess up. And so they become careless. And so I think there is a healthy awareness and fear of sin and temptation and things that can sidetrack us in our life. And I think that the moment I become kind of, carefree about it or careless about it or kind of like, well, that wouldn't happen to me. Good Lord, look, who I am and what I've done. I think the moment we get kind of, when David messed up, instead of going to war with the soldiers, he was laying out in the Florida sun. You know what I'm saying? and then all of a sudden he saw a beautiful woman. So I think that being careless or just kind of carefree or just not seriously taking the fact that we're all very liable to sin in our life. I am. I'm 79. I thought at 79 there'd be a time when there'd be certain temptations that would no longer be there, and I'm either extremely healthy and those temptations are still there, or I was extremely stupid and naive, which I got a feeling that was probably what the real issue was. So I think it's just an awareness and a love for God that just says, hey, I want to keep that relationship.
I got one more question for you before we end our time here together.
Don't make it hard.
So one of the things that I was very excited in leading up to this year with the amount of seats that we have available here for us is that we could really open up the floodgates for a lot of younger students to come. We got a lot of teenagers, a lot of college men that are in attendance today, and which is just for me a real blessing, because if we can help build the foundation in young men prior to them entering their career and marriage and being a dad and all that kind of thing, just think about what they could accomplish for the kingdom of God.
Totally.
So I'd love for you to just take yourself back a few years.
Yeah.
And if you could give like a 20 to 25-year-old John Maxwell some advice.
Yeah.
And sit in their seat for a second. What, in regards to their faith, in regards to just their life, leadership, whatever, what advice would you give them?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. Well, the first thing I would say to you that are young is you're very fortunate to be here. I mean, think about, you're hearing this at a very young age. So you're getting a head start on a lot of people. I mean, a lot of men that are here today, they're just new to faith, or they're just new to these principles that you teach, Tom, and you're getting it as a teenager or maybe in your early 20s. You know, the fastest person doesn't win the race. It's the person who starts first. I can win the race. I mean, the Olympics are on right now. Of course, they're not the Summer Olympics, but you can get the greatest track star in the world, and I can win a race against the fastest person in the world if I get a big enough head start. Yeah, yeah, and it's true. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, if we're going to run 100 yards, give me 80 yards head start. And let me just say this. I would like to say 70, but I'm not sure I could do that. At 70, Tom, they probably would pass me up and win. But at 80, this fat man could roll across. You know, I can roll across that line. So the fastest person doesn't win the race. It's the one who gets started first. Starting first is greatly underestimated. And if you're a teenager, if you're young in the 20s, you're getting a fast start. You're getting a first start. And what that means is if you really take these decisions and apply them to your life and make them count, you've got an incredible life. I received Christ when I was 17, and I'm 79. And I've been walking a faith life for a lot of years. And I can tell you, consistency will compound in your life. And I would also say when you're young, don't be intimidated because you don't know a lot of things. It's okay. The best way, in fact, you know what I wish, Tom? I wish everybody could have known. I mean, they know me now at 79. I wish they could have known me at 19 because I wasn't that good. And I'm not being humble. I wasn't that good. The first time I preached, it was terrible. I mean, I preached for 55 minutes. It was terrible. In fact, I asked the pastor to come back a year later to apologize. He said, "Do you want to preach?" I said, "No, I just want to ask forgiveness. I just want to look at all those people say it was terrible." And then I started laughing because he said, "Well, you can come back." But he said, "I really do want you to preach." And then I started laughing because I thought anybody that heard me the first time won't show up the next time. They're not going to be there to hear me apologize. They're going to say, "Oh my gosh, he's terrible. I'm not going to go hear him again." And I'm saying that because when people see me now, there's a lot of, quote, we get in this word again, amazing about it. And there's really nothing amazing about it. Again, God's amazing. But consistency really compounds, and you're okay. Boy, I'm down. I'll shut up.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, okay. Thank you very much. For the next hour, I would like to talk about. Here's what I want you to know. This is very important if you're young. You'll do a lot of work when you're young that you won't get credit for. You'll get overlooked a lot because of your age. I remember when I pastored, I went to my first church, I was 22, and people that were 35 and 40 years of age, they just came to me and said, "We really like you, but we're never going to come to you for counseling." Why would they want to go to a 22-year-old kid? And I looked at him, I said, I agree with you. In fact, I don't even go to myself for counseling, you know what I'm saying? What didn't offend me? I mean, why would they want to go to a 22-year-old kid to get advice from? I didn't know anything back then. So here, let me just say this to you. In the beginning, you just get overlooked a lot. But just do the right thing. Here's what happens in your life. Your good stuff doesn't show up quickly. So do good stuff and store it up. What gets stored up eventually shows up. So when you're young, you're not going to get credit for stuff, but that's okay. Do it anyway. Do the right thing anyway. And you store it up, and then what happens, you get a certain age and all of a sudden, you just start to blossom. And everybody said, "Oh my gosh, you're like an overnight success." No, you're not an overnight success. You've been storing it up, and one day it shows up. I mean, if you take water, you with me, and it's frozen, and if it's 28 degrees, it goes to 29, nothing happens. 30 degrees, nothing happens. 32, and then all of a sudden, about 32 degrees, it begins to become. I mean, all of a sudden, it melts. Well, did you get good there? No, you've been good the whole time. Every degree was getting you to the place that one day it was going to show up. And so what I just say to you is, just do the right thing, do it consistently. Don't get offended when people don't recognize you or think you're doing very good. In fact, here's the way it really works. In the beginning of a life, you're not as bad as people think you are. But if you really stay consistent, when you get my age, you're not as good as people think you are. And that's a fact. And I want to tell people all the time because they see all the stuff now. And I want to say, I'm not that good. Somebody asked me the other day, said, how did you become the number one leadership expert in the world? And I said, one, I'm not an expert, but number two is, I know how you become number one in the world. You know, maybe I was, 8 or 9 years ago, I was number 10, and then somebody above me died. I'm 9, 8. I started looking forward to funerals. Finally somebody beat the dust and they looked around and they said, you're the last man standing, you know what I mean? So I guess that's how I get it. So hopefully that really encourages them, Tom, to just stay consistent and hang in there.
Stay alive.
Yeah.
Stay alive.
And someday somebody will bite the dust and you'll say, ooh, I stepped up a little bit. Anyway.
Thank John for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. God bless you.
All right, so was I right? Yeah, I was right. It was a great combo, right? Short, but so good. Hopefully enjoyed that conversation that I had with John at the Men's Summit. Man, if you did, do me a favor, would you send this on to someone else? This could be a great intro to them about what RESGEN and what our podcast is all about, being men whose life in Christ gives life to others. So pass this along, share it with others, post it on your socials. That'd be great. Also, if you wouldn't mind writing a review, maybe rating the podcast, that, of course, allows us to continue to increase our influence and reach in the podcast world as well. All right, thanks again for joining me. We'll look forward to seeing you next time for another episode of the RESGEN Giving Life Podcast. Until then, continue being men whose life in Christ gives life to others. We'll talk to you soon.